But which one of them was destroyed? The master
Or the apprentice.
or the apprentice?
Yee.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Badonka Gonk. Today on Badonka Gonk, we're going to be talking all things Master Mace Windu.
Yes, Windu. We had a book about Windu.
The Glass Abyss.
We want to talk about some of our favorite moments from Mace Windu. Probably try to grab some questions from you guys a little bit too, Windu or not. But if you guys want to start submitting those now,
Yes.
we'll get to those hopefully
Absolutely.
later on, and we will answer, as Eric says, all of them.
All of them! We try to answer as many as we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, specifically if you have them about Mace, or if not, I mean, we just had Skeleton Crew wrap up.
Skeleton Crew,
stuff
which
like
we
that,
tier
so-
ranked over on the
Yeah.
other podcast at Blind Wave. So, yeah.
So, Aaron, I think the best way to start is to talk about our favorite, or I should just say our most substantial, Mace Windu moments in Star Wars.
Okay.
Now, how
Yeah,
much
yeah,
of a
yeah.
stickler are you for canon versus non-canon?
Canon versus non-canon?
I have one on here that's like non-canon, but I also researched a way that I can sneak it in if you're going to be a stickler.
Is it from Clone Wars?
Yes.
But a different Clone Wars than what I would think of?
Yes.
I did not write it down.
Okay.
It is a favorite moment of mine.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that one now?
Yeah, we'll go right into it. I mean, if I'm allowed to put it on my list, it's going up pretty high.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But if we're more of like an alternate thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm talking about the Battle of Dantooine from Star Wars Clone Wars, not the Clone Wars, right?
Sure. Gindi.
The Gindi series, the animation. Back in the day, we had an entire episode, or episodes, I should say, with no dialogue.
That was like 2004, 3?
2004.
It was like early 2000s.
It was right before. Maybe Volume 2 was 2004, and that was 2002 or 3 or whatever. But yeah, it was
it's been a while.
It aired on Cartoon Network for 5 minutes at a time. But the Dantooine episodes of Mace Windu, where he literally takes apart an entire battle droid army by himself.
With his hands and
With
stuff,
his
right?
hands.
He's like elbowing him.
He
he's
loses his
punching him.
lightsaber.
Yeah.
But if we want to, there is a thing here that says, I had to look it up, because in Brain Invaders, which was a Geonosis arc Clone Wars episode, there is a passing mention of the episode that we're talking about, of Clone Wars, that depicts Mace fighting a droid army single-handedly at the Battle of Dantooine. So they do mention it kind of in reference. Obviously, I don't think it happened the exact same way in that medium versus the other medium, but it's such an amazing part that when I think of Mace Windu, I kind of think of that first, honestly.
Gotcha.
I love that. You know, Mace is an interesting character. He is so often a reflection of other characters, especially I feel like he's really taken on the sentiment of like the Jedi are flawed and they're too strict. And I feel like Mace is like at the forefront of that, right?
The strict
strict
Jedi.
Jedi. Which, you know, like when you think about his utilization in the, I don't know if this is on your list or not, but the Tales of the Jedi episode with Dooku, like we kind of have him opposed to Dooku. Dooku's our Sith Lord, but Mace is like almost the not antagonist, but like he's like an antagonistic force in there. Like he gets Dooku's seat, and he treats these people this way, the way the Republic would, which disenfranchises Dooku in a way that you might say, like, I get it.
Yeah,
You know?
it made me understand Dooku much better, yeah.
So, like, going through this list, it was kind of tough for me to find, like, my favorite Mace Windu stuff, just because I feel like his utilization doesn't make him my favorite character by far.
Sure.
But he has some great moments, and I want to talk about those today.
Gotcha.
So, my honorable mention will be the Battle of Dantooine.
Okay. I'll hold on a little bit for one of my favorite ones, I suppose, then.
Okay.
But I think it can relate really well with that one.
Gotcha. So we're going to try to go over our top 5.
All right. I'm going to start with just one of the things I always think of with Mace Windu. I don't know if it's one of my favorites, but it's something I just think of, which is the party's over.
This party's over.
Yeah. I think about him showing up and saying that, and I love that. Like, I think his
The swagger.
Yeah, I guess it's swagger. I'm trying to think of what the word is.
Sam
but when
Jackson-ness.
Yeah, when Mace is very Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
When he shows up and he's just like, I'm going to you're done with this. Party's over. And there's a few of these that I think, at least one more, where it's about him showing up and him being just Mace Windu, or him being like Sam Jackson kind of thing too.
I mean, if it wasn't played by Sam Jackson, he might have a lot more haters than he has.
Maybe.
You know? I mean, there's a lot of charisma in that guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like you said too, the way he plays a Jedi is very strict to the rules, and sometimes, like, I think some of the favorite Jedis are usually the ones that are a little bit more laxed and a little bit more, like Count Dooku, and seeing him wanting to care for the people versus like, no, this is what the Republic wants and this is what we should do. It's that idea of like the Jedi should be for all the people, not just for the Republic, whereas Mace falls into that like, no, we have our rules and our guidelines and we must do exactly what they are, and we are part of the Republic.
Sure.
So... yeah,
but
I could see him being disliked more than he maybe is, but
you can't help but like, this party's over. You can't be like, Sam Jackson, stab him.
Now, I don't know if the next part of that is on your list at all or anything.
I mean, a scene following that is on my list. Yeah, I can make that my number 5.
Make that your number 5.
My number 5 is Mace versus Jango. It's not the longest fight. It's a little bit longer in the extended scene, but. It's funny when you compare Jango Fett in Episode 2's fight with Obi-Wan to Mace. Like you almost are like power scaling a little bit. It's like Obi-Wan has this much of a time fighting Jango, and Mace, the second baddest dude in the galaxy, bam, 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 bam. Takes him out. But we also get to see
he didn't
Jango,
get a jetpack. He lost a jetpack
Jango
early
loses
on.
everything that makes him Mando other than his armor. Now, I think newer fans might be like, why can't he just block with his Beskar? But that wasn't a thing when we watched that back in the day. So I don't even really think about it anymore.
Sure.
But, yeah, his execution of Jango Fett it's cold, I feel like. It's calculated.
I wish it was longer. Yeah. I do wish it was longer. It's part of why, I was like, I don't know, do I want to put it on this list or do I not want to put it on this list? Because there's that, and also another thing where I'm like, I don't know that I really loved these moments with him too much. But it continues the story that then gives you Boba Fett's vengeance story in Clone Wars, which is a real fun arc.
It is. I mean, I was almost I love that arc so much. I was almost tempted to put something about it on my list, but that's kind of ultimately a Boba Fett moment. I mean, Mace is there. I mean, I love the helmet on top of the bomb. Yeah. Anakin, no! And he pulls Anakin out of the way. Like, that's good stuff. And Mace has his sweet droid in that arc. That's like gold and purple.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It gets blown up, unfortunately. But it's cool.
It's like a better Goldie.
Yeah, it's like a better Goldie. But, so I was kind of tempted of putting that in there. But, yeah, I often think of his destruction of Jango Fett in front of Jango's son. Which I guess he knew he was there because he was up there, like, on the dais talking. Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah. No, the shot there of him holding the helmet is so sad.
Yeah. Very sad.
Well then, I think my next one that I want to pick is probably going to be the bridge over Ryloth. Like, there's the Ryloth arc where they're trying to save and liberate Ryloth. And
Ryloth.
I think there's a lot of fun Mace Windu moments, and it's a good story with them and Cham, but getting across the bridge, like that moment there, and then he has to like get those couple jumps at the end and stuff.
Well, I love the plan. The two clone troopers, like, it's turning off.
Yep.
All the sound goes away and the music, and it's just quiet. And I love. There's one part in that I love where he's climbing up the stamp battle droid rider.
Yeah.
And like, fucking, he looks right at his face and like gives us like this look that I've always like, why are you doing that? But it's chilling as well. I love that moment.
Yeah. So I think getting a chance to actually free Ryloth, like you're finally taking out what was it, Tambor, right? I think
Tambor,
it was who was in that, and just getting that chance to do that, but also it's just a cool moment. It's a cool idea. It's clever when it's like, well, they check everything. Yeah. What do we do?
No, I mean, that silent ascension out of the hole, and then he brings the other two clone troopers up. That's actually my number 1.
Oh, is it?
I love it so much. But I'll be able to switch to other moments. There's a lot of moments in that one that I'll be able to highlight.
Gotcha.
Because I love that moment so much. That's a good one. That's your 4?
Yeah, it is. Because the next 2 I like more than that moment.
Okay, gotcha.
Though you're right about like the coolness of just it gets quiet. We take away the music. We take away everything, and it's Mace in his ascension.
Like, I like to think, like, when other Jedi do their Jedi things, like in their hearing, no, 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 no. But when Mace does it, it's cold and it's calculated and it's silent, and he does what he needs to do. I think it works really well.
Yeah.
And probably one of the highlights of season 1 of the Clone Wars. Yeah.
And you get to learn more about Cham, like about Syndulla, which then comes back, I think, later on in later series.
If you don't get Cham, you probably don't get the connection with Hera and Chopper and all that stuff. Yeah. Yep. And then you have the other connection of Mace and Depa and Kanan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very integral in there. I mean, he's Ezra's like sire, or one of his Jedi ancestors in a way, with the direct lineage of pupils. So
yeah.
Okay. So I will shift over to. I mean, people might not like this choice, but I actually quite like the "I'm sorry, citizen."
To Ahsoka.
To Ahsoka.
I mean, it goes with his strict.
It does.
Here are the lines that we don't cross.
And I think when I first heard it, like it immediately rubs me the wrong way. And
sure.
You want to,
just like, oh man,
you want to blame Mace in that regard and stuff. But like, she is at that point talking about like, what do you mean about Palpatine? And he's like, hey, citizen, this is stuff for the council to know, not you. Like, in a way, he's almost kind of protecting her. Like, if people knew that we had this suspicion that Palpatine is doing things wrong, like that puts a target on you. So maybe by like pushing her away and calling her citizen, it's kind of a way of like shielding her from that. Maybe. When I rewatched that scene this week, I don't know, that kind of like went into my head and I couldn't get out of it.
Really?
Yeah. Because I did find myself, especially after reading the book that we're going to be talking about, like really thinking about Mace Windu and who he is as a Jedi, as opposed to like what he means for other characters in this story.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so the "I'm sorry, citizen" one, I have that there on my list because I think about it often. I bring it up a lot. I would say that's one of the most thought-provoking Mace Windu moments.
Okay.
Mace doesn't really get a whole lot. Especially in something like in the prequels, and he's kind of just
he's not in
sometimes. But Clone Wars, I think, brings really interesting things for him. But I thought it was important to put on my list. Like, one of the reasons that he is so notable, and I think that kind of line kind of sums it up. Like, I think he means very well with it, but we don't take it that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe he does. Yeah, we never get into his mind very often to get an idea of what he's thinking and why he does the things he does, right? Like, I
mean, until we got into this book, you're kind of like, you're kind of talking about Mace, how he is and how he thinks of himself, and that kind of put me into a mindset of wanting to not just think about what the movie was showing me, but what the character. I learned about the character and how I could reflect that into the movie.
I'd be interested to see this take place, like, not this, but like seeing a story of Mace later into the trilogy, since this one takes place earlier on, before the Clone Wars and that kind of stuff too. But and it's a lot of it. Anyway, we can talk about that more later, I guess. But I don't have a specific moment, but it's from a Clone Wars arc.
Okay.
Which is the I think it's the Disappeared arc. Yeah. But it's Mace with the Bardatans.
Yeah, the Disappeared.
But my favorite thing about
the
Disappeared, and my favorite thing about it is that you have a series or arc that is about Mace and Jar Jar working together, and it's two characters. Like after you watch episode 1, you're like, well, those two.
I think
they're not going to get along.
I think
they're
it's
not
one of
the
best characters you can put Jar Jar with.
I love pairing them together, and that's why I'm like, I don't know what moment I want to pick, but I loved that arc and those two together, and like whenever he like caught tied up, was like, help, Mace is coming up trying to save him and stuff, and like I love it.
It's so Indiana Jones.
It has the Indiana Jones feel. It also ties in with like Talzin and stuff too, right? Like all that, like trying to gather all the Force and stuff to get like a revival, and like it has a lot of stuff from a lot of characters, and I like where it goes. But it has so many different like things in it, and my best part about it is just Mace and Jar Jar, and like them going into that maze, and then Jar Jar like vanishes. Like there's just moments of it's funny. I think more so because Mace is there, and he's always so.
I agree.
Rigid and stoic, and
he's like the best straight man for this goofy humor to bounce off of. Man, we have a lot of crossover on our list.
Do we?
That one's also on there, but I think specifically I go for the Mace versus Mother Talzin fight.
Gotcha.
I love that fight. I think when I first watched it, I was kind of just so shocked that Talzin had a melee sword.
Yeah.
We've never seen her do anything like that before. And it's honestly not even the sword fight or whatever that gets me. I love Mace's retort when she talks about like you're no match against my magic, and he's like, magic is merely an illusion. It means nothing. Like this space monk that can float objects and see the future is going like, that's bullcrap.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like pretty sure it wasn't. Pretty sure Dooku was spilling out his innards.
Hey,
pretty sure
he had boils growing on him and stuff.
Pretty sure Savage Opress is a Hulk.
Yeah.
I don't know how illusionary
we created new legs for Maul.
Yeah. But Mace believes it, and thus he has the confidence to overcome.
Yeah.
And he's not scared, and he's not afraid of it. So that's good for him.
Okay.
But yeah, I do. And yeah, the Blade of Talzin is the same thing I think that we see Morgan Elsbeth use against Ahsoka.
Okay.
Yep.
That's cool.
So that was The Disappeared. That was
Disappeared,
season 6 of the Clone Wars. Definitely agree that one's good.
Now, I only really have one more on my list, which is, I think, tied really well to the first thing we talked about from you.
Okay.
And I don't know, it might be on your list, it might not be, but you're talking about the Gindi series, and like a little thing about like Mace and just the Battle of Dantooine and all the droids he takes out.
Sure.
I really like the Anaxis. It's on Anaxis. Like Mace Windu, I don't think is a huge part of most of the Anaxis story in the last season.
Yeah.
But when he shows up, when they're taking out like everybody and everything, he lands among those droids.
Him and Obi-Wan.
And I love that he's like, I have dismantled like over 100,000 of you, and like he's like trying to instill like fear in these battle droids, which may or may not work. But I love like it's also kind of like the party's over kind of moment.
It is. I
love him landing there, and he's like talking about that. Like I was like, you know what? If this is tied to the Gindi thing or another nod to that, like he took out a lot, and he did like a huge blast, and he's punching things with his hands. But
dude, that one time where he like takes all the screws out, and the guy the battle droid just falls apart, and then he uses it as shrapnel to take out others. So cool.
But he's like, I've single-handedly dismantled over 100,000 of you, and I'm like, throughout the whole war, I believe that he probably did.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe other Jedi did as well, but him specifically thinking about the Gindi thing.
Okay.
I like that moment because like it could nod to that, but he just the fear he's trying to instill on droids, I thought was great.
Yeah.
He has a great presence when he shows up. I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, that one's not on mine, so I'm good. I wanted to try to find something from Star Wars Shatterpoint.
It's been so long since I've read that one.
I mean, I love Shatterpoint. I love Depa's madness in that, and the jungle and everything, but it's not canon.
Sure.
The book that we're about ready to review is kind of not a replacement, but similar grounds of like trying to do a character study of this character. But I can shift it to the same episode you're talking about of Ryloth, where we get to see Mace Windu literally use Shatterpoint on the tank. Remember,
okay.
like he cuts a piece out of the glass or whatever using the Force. I think I can kind of like bring all my love for the Shatterpoint novel and then point at that Clone Wars canon moment, because for me, I bring all of that with it.
Okay.
And it's also just a really, really cool moment in a battle.
Yeah.
To be able to just touch glass and it shatters like that, I think it's one of the coolest things that's not super developed with Mace Windu. So,
is the Shatterpoint or
the Shatterpoint?
Yeah,
just the idea.
Especially in canon.
It gets referenced a lot. I think books are more likely to talk about it, but it's just, I don't think that exists in the prequels, really, But yeah, the Shatterpoint thing, I'll just smuggle that in there with that.
Okay. No, I read that one a long time ago, and there's little parts that I remember some with it, but there's a lot of things that I'm like, man, I need to reread it sometime.
Shatterpoint would be a fun one to reread. I especially love the bad guy in it, though I can't remember his name right now. But he used like sharp shields. I just always loved the idea when they fought. This guy aggressively uses a shield, and this guy defensively uses a sword.
Yep. I keep thinking of shields with it, and I can't remember who it was that had it, but I think of shields and swords because of that one. So.
Okay, well, so that I kind of shift from the bridge there. I also really love in that arc when Mace is like, it's after the bridge and he's going down. They're making their way into the the compound there, and like all of these battle droids are firing, and he takes them out with the force push, and then a tank turns around and it's coming for him, and you're like, you can't force push a tank, but he force pushes this big like steel plate and it smashes the tank. I just always loved how he just kind of like does that. So special shout out for that one. But my last one, which isn't necessarily my number one, but I've kind of, we went all over my list pretty much at this point. This is going to be, it's interesting, because I do not like Mace versus Palpatine. I think it should be one of the best fights in the...
I specifically left that off my list because I'm like, overall, I really don't love this moment.
I love, the Senate will decide your fate, I love all the lines and I love the stuff. It's just the actual things that are happening. The fight itself just leaves me wanting.
Mm-hmm.
But, and again, I don't know if this is necessarily present in the movie as opposed to me reading into it, but when you compare... Because Mace has to deal with Palpatine's lightning. We don't see a lot of people deal with Palpatine's lightning, but Mace is one of the only ones that it doesn't affect him at all, right? And you could say, he has a lightsaber.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan, he absorbs Dooku's lightning in Episode 2, whereas Mace can literally, redirect it.
Yeah, he's pointing it back at him.
It wasn't really until I was reading the book and remembering... Vapad, which is his version of Form 7 that he kind of created to channel darkness and redirect it, that I was going like, there's kind of an interesting parallel if you do take, Obi-Wan's absorption of lightning. Mace uses Vipod, a lightsaber form, to redirect the dark side. And I'm like, that's kind of an interesting thing. I don't think that was in Lucas's mind.
No.
But that's the great thing about Star Wars. It doesn't need to be.
Sure.
It's out in the great tapestry
it's
of
like
mythology.
That's why it messes with his face.
Yeah.
He's shooting it back at him. And
I kind of always thought that would be interesting. Like he's pushing back, you are the traitor, that type of thing. But I like the idea that... Because I got to admit, I don't love the idea of Vapad and channeling your darkness. I try to stay as far away from the idea of Grey Jedi as possible, just because I just don't think it works very well. But this is probably the one that I'm closest enough to accept. The idea of channeling the dark side, using it in a positive way. So I just feel like once you start down the dark side, forever dominates your destiny, that type of thing. But Mace is kind of meant to be a character, at least in the greater Star Wars universe, expanded Star Wars universe, that can flirt with it and not let it go too crazy. But I never really thought I saw that in the movies ever, or the intention of Lucas when he created the character. Except now I'm kind of reading into it because Star Wars has taught me.
There's been new things that have kind of been like,
I think you could say maybe Dooku and Palpatine's lightning is just one's far more powerful, so this one can get absorbed, but this one
doesn't Yoda he doesn't have a lightsaber, but doesn't he just take Dooku's and
he at one point he crushes it and another he throws it back.
I guess that's true. He does.
But he does the same thing with Palpatine as well. He doesn't necessarily push it back. They're kind of just
he's kind of just stopping it
in Episode 3. Yeah. But yeah, no, I always just kind of like that. Obi-Wan just kind of puts his lightsaber up. Dooku's like, no, I guess that doesn't work. Which I always kind of thought man, that's a good idea the Jedi had. Cause I imagine when there's 1,000 Sith Lords,
Luke really shouldn't have thrown away that saber and been like, father, I'm like my father, He should have kept that thing.
Yeah, he only had a little bit of time with Obi-Wan, to learn.
That's true.
But you figure it's hey, I'm going to, confront Vader and the Emperor's going to be there. You figure Yoda or Obi-Wan would be like,
hey, hold on that lightsaber.
Hold on that lightsaber, man.
Hey, he'll shoot lightning. Well, last time I fought him, he shot lightning at me. You know what I mean? So maybe use your saber for that.
Obi-Wan, this weapon is your life. He sees him throw it.
Dang it.
But that would only be the second time Luke throws away the lightsaber. Will piss people off. I guess that was the first. The second one, people would be much more upset.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I put that on my list just because I like that it's changed my opinion a little bit of stuff that's happening in that fight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's little things in there. I'm like, if you just change this, this, and this, I think it'd be a lot better. But
I was thinking about it, and I was like, I love that. Palpatine is it was a lot of the fight, them coming in. I'm like, oh, good, and it feels like I'm building up to a cool moment. And you have some really good fights in Episode 3, and I wish I felt the same about this one, even if it was shorter. It didn't have to be Anakin and Obi-Wan or anything, but I felt like we cut to it, and it's dead. Dead. And then I never felt like, okay, now we're getting to these two. Mace Windu is a great fighter, right? And I
know.
I never felt like it hit the high I wanted it to.
I understand what they're trying to do. Like, Lucas is kind of a power scaler where he's like, look, I cut these guys down quick to show you how good he is. It's like, yeah, but like, I don't feel it. I feel like that guy was so slow. I mean, the Palpatine tornado is cool, you know? But I feel like there's a moment where Palpatine's like, and gets you. So, yeah.
But, nah, I don't know. But, no, there's a lot of other really good Mace moments and stuff, too. After the book, I'm going to write it down. There's a question I want to ask after the book.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting going through because, I mean, I generally like Mace Windu. I mean, he is unique in that he's one of the only purple lightsaber wielders that we have. Mm-hmm. But when I was going through, like, okay, I'm going to write down every scene I can think of with Mace Windu. Like, so many of them is just like, dick, not cool. Didn't like that part, you know?
Complaining about Anakin.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, he guessed ship, like, real good. Like, give him some credit.
Yep.
You know? Speeder, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's some of our moments that we like with Mace Windu and just kind of getting a chance to talk about him.
And let us know if you guys had any favorite Mace Windu moments that was not on our list.
Yes. I was trying to think of everything I could, and I'm sure there's things I've forgotten. There's
also says the Senate will decide your fate, motherfucker.
There's also a lot of comic stuff, I'm sure, that I'm not familiar with, that I haven't seen, and I'm sure he's in some, doing some cool stuff too. But
I certainly haven't seen much in terms of canon comic stuff. I mean, he was briefly in Son of Dathomir, but not much. But I remember the not Old Republic, the Republic comic series had a lot of Mace Windu, and I greatly enjoyed him in there. But there's really nothing left over from that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
As Nexus says, he has 2 comic miniseries that we'll eventually get to.
Ooh.
And here in very, very soon. I realize I said this last time.
No, you shouldn't say anything.
But not only are we going to be coming back with comics, we actually have we're going to be hitting a good slew of comics that we're going to be getting into.
I don't trust him anymore, guys.
I know, I understand.
Don't listen to anything that he says.
The last thing that I have to do to make sure it's actually posted is I got to film a new ending and beginning for the first 2 that are going to be coming out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but that's only because of editing problems that we've had. So
okay.
Anyway, but yes. So after that, I understand that Sam Jackson is the reason we have a purple lightsaber.
Sure, because he said, "I want a purple lightsaber." Yeah, sure.
Like, do you think if we didn't have that, do you think Lucas would have kept with? Green, blue,
think that was probably the catalyst, because from what I understood, in the behind-the-scenes kind of things, I mean, maybe things would have changed for some other reason in the future. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, he was looking at, no, you have these colors. And I think even back in the original trilogy, he was looking at just, blue and red, and just using those. I mean, but because Luke points at the blue sky, they're like, hey, we can't see this saber very well. I was like, well, let's make it a green saber. Yeah. So I think that, he comes across a reason why he had to do it. Maybe there's some other reason we do it in the future if Sam Jackson didn't want a purple lightsaber. But, I mean, we had, when did they start having, yellow sabers?
Expanded universe. I mean, I truly believe if Lucas did his sequel series, we would never have had a yellow/orange saber with Rey. I just don't think that was in his lexicon. I just don't think he liked it. I just think he liked these 2. Good guys are this, bad guys are this.
Yeah.
He was usually pretty consistent with that. Especially with laser colors and the Empire versus the Rebellion. He would,
Empire were green laser bolts usually for ships, and then red for the good guys.
I honestly think Lucas is kind of a master at this. He understands that these are the things you keep simple, so that everybody, including kids, can understand, and then these are the things you challenge them with. Yeah. And usually the things you challenge them with are relationships and love and hate and that type of thing. Whereas the visual language, you want to keep very consistent.
Sure. You don't want to. All right. Well, he has a yellow saber, so he must be a Sentinel Jedi, which means that he must be doing this. And then here's the Guardians because they have these colors, and here's.
Well, now Mace never was originally created to have the purple lightsaber. I actually brought a couple of my favorite Mace Windu figures to show off. This one is it's a Black Series figure, but it's done in the Episode 1 card or whatever, and it has a holographic thing. But this is the more conventional Mace Windu that you see with the purple lightsaber, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people will be like, yep, that one makes sense. But the very first Mace Windu figure this was 1999. I still have mine. If you were collecting Power of the Force, you were able to send away and get this sent to you. This is the first Mace Windu figure. And what do you notice about Mace Windu in this one?
He's little.
He's little.
No.
This is 3 3/4.
He has a blue lightsaber.
He has a
in
blue
there.
saber. Yeah, this is again, this is one of my favorite things in my collection. But this is, it has in the back Star Wars Episode 1 coming to a theater in your galaxy, summer 1999, right on the back. But if you were collecting figures and opening them and not worrying about your boxes, you could get like, I don't know if it was barcodes, or you could get something off there, collect them all, a certain number, and then send them in, and they would send you this. So that was the only way you could get these. You know?
Okay.
So I just love that when I got it, I'm like, wow, it's so cool, and he has a blue lightsaber. I tell all my friends, Mace is a blue lightsaber. It's not green, it's blue. And they're like, what? No way. How do you know? And I'm like, look, because this wasn't in the stores.
Gotcha,
You
okay.
couldn't find it. And then when Episode 2 came out, everyone's like, Eric lied to us. It's purple. I'm like, I didn't know.
I guess it's true, right? Because like he never ignites his saber.
Not once.
For Episode 1
In fact,
for anything.
in Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, I believe he uses a blue lightsaber in that official game.
Really?
But then also, a character uses a red lightsaber too, and a Jedi character.
Huh.
And I think that was still because the rules, lightsaber rules have changed many times throughout Star Wars tenure, in our lives. But at one point, no one really understood that Sith were red. It was just Darth Vader's was red.
Yeah.
So it made perfect sense that there were Jedi out there that had blue and red and green and whatever. They didn't really make it just it was a bad guy thing. So I can't remember which character uses a red lightsaber in that game, but it was a pretty good one.
Power Battles, as you said it was?
Jedi Power Battles, which I believe is either being remade or remastered or something. Very recently came out. We're talking about playing it.
Okay. Yeah, I've never played that one.
I played it when my brother was in college at OU over in Athens. One of his roommates had it, and I remember playing it. That's the only time I ever played it.
Never played that. Never played Terrascasi.
Masters of Terrascasi?
Never played Terrascasi either.
That's a good game, man.
Is it?
Watching a Gamorrean fight off Darth Vader is one of the best things you could ever do.
It makes me think of like watching Injustice. You're watching Joker fight Superman, and you're like, how is he standing toe to toe to that?
They have reasons.
He shot him with heat vision,
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. I also brought, this is another figure that I like. This is a Clone Wars Mace Windu figure, but this actually was made before the canon Clone Wars series.
Is this when they had? I don't remember when it came out. There was a Clone Wars video game that you played as Mace Windu in that.
Sure.
That I thought came out before the Clone Wars series did, because like you're fighting on like Geonosis and going through like the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was. I don't remember watching the Clone Wars. I remember playing that and then watching Clone Wars and it being like different.
I don't remember. I think this is kind of more based on the Republic comics. But it's kind of a realistic Sam Jackson Clone Wars design. Before we really had, the look that we have now, which he generally just kind of has the pauldrons, the clone armor that we see. But I just wanted to show this one to you, especially check out the back, because you can see characters like Asajj Ventress and Dirge before they made their way to other media.
There's Dirge, yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bit more.
Kenobi has like a bandolier.
Yeah. It's a really unique action figure because it doesn't really appear in almost any media.
I like for Yoda to keep him the same height as everyone else. They put him on like a little like pedestal thing.
Yeah, they did.
Like a little chair with legs.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, Ventress, huh? That's kind of cool.
But yeah, I do wonder, someone said it, Dr. Teak, like I wonder if they'll change that in the upcoming Jedi Power Battles re-release. So I imagine they will, because I'm pretty sure they added Jar Jar as a playable character to that, just for fun. So you can play as like Mace Windu,
Does he
Obi-Wan,
have a red lightsaber?
Qui-Gon, and I think was it Adi Gallia that you could play? And she had the red lightsaber? It was either that or Depa. I can't remember.
They should give Jar Jar a red lightsaber.
They should.
For Darth Jar Jar.
They very much should. Or just a tongue.
A tongue?
I would go.
He's just fighting with his tongue?
I would have him do
he
the
can
same
steal your lightsaber?
Whoopsie. Yeah, I would say that.
All right.
Okay, so they have an option to switch if you want it to be blue or red. Is that the idea? That could be cool. I think is what Nexus is saying. I don't know. Maybe not.
Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share a couple, especially this episode one, because I remember me and my brother bonding over. He got one as well. Mine's in much better condition.
You both got one?
Yeah, because he collected figures and I did too. And in fact, he let me have some of his barcodes because I opened some figures, but not all. Certainly.
Okay.
But as soon as he got his, he opened his, and threw this away, and I keep it.
Ah.
And I'm actually quite proud.
What a fool!
I'm very proud by the condition it's still in because I see these.
Mock your brother more.
I see these all the time, marked up at conventions and stuff.
Really?
And they're like,
well, so it's kind of like the Boba Fett that you could only get by sending away for, right? Like that first Boba Fett that could shoot a.
It is not as rare as that. But it's kind of like that.
Sure.
Yes.
I
This
feel like
is just the 90s version.
there's so many more years in between
There's
like
so
that
many,
time
yeah.
frame. But
no, that one hit legendary status. This one is more of like kind of like cool.
That's cool. Now a lot of people have this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does your brother still have his figure though?
I'm sure. Yeah. No, I'm sure he does. But it's not his lightsaber either, like the actual hilt.
Okay.
Because that just wasn't designed yet. It wasn't
Sure,
designed
yeah.
until episode one. So it's more of like this. I think they had like 5 or 6 just like standard. This is a Jedi's lightsaber that he had.
This is what Nexus was saying he sent.
Oh,
I feel like Mace Windu's head is real big compared to his body.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just the angle that this is in.
You're right. It is the angle. It wasn't necessarily a top down. It's kind of like 3/4 down, I guess.
Okay. So you're closer to the top of them than you are the bottom
you are
of them.
much closer to the top of them than you are. Yeah.
Okay. And then during this is on. He sent it to us in Teams, but there's a title page that has Mace Windu there with his blue lightsaber too.
Oh, and Plo Koon had an orange lightsaber. That's right. I remember that.
And then Adi Gallia's there with the red one.
And then she had the red. And I remember thinking even then, like, why does she have red? Bad guys have red. And I remember being like, either my brother or his friend being like, who told you that? Anyone could have red. It's just a color. I'm like, you'll see. Darth Maul has red. Vader has red. I've established a pattern.
The bad guys have red.
Bad guys are red.
And then I didn't realize I think it's Obi-Wan, but I was like, why is Sam Witwer there with a blue lightsaber?
That's Obi-Wan.
So, all right.
Mace, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Plo Koon, Adi Gallia were the playable characters in that. I remember it was always, because you could play multiplayer in that. But I always played single. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe when it comes out, we can check it out at some point because I've never played it.
I didn't want to fish it out because it's currently buried, but I also have Mace Windu's Jedi Starfighter.
The triangle red, or what does it look like?
It's more of an Actus class, like Episode 3.
Okay.
Anakin's, and all it is just a repaint. They kind of did that where they're like, all right, this is here's Obi-Wan's and here's Anakin's, and it's like, well, that's the ones we've seen.
Okay.
And it's like, here's Aayla Secura's and it's blue. And I'm like, okay, I get it, And then here's Mace's and it's purple. I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing. I'll still buy it. One, please.
give me one.
But I do like that I have Mace Windu's Jedi Starfighter that doesn't really exist.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember if it showed up in Clone Wars ever. I know Yoda eventually got like a small one.
Yeah,
right.
And I liked his because it was like smaller. It was just like the ones that the other Jedi flew, but smaller for a Yoda. And sure. I loved it. I thought it was great. All right. Should we move on to the book? Discuss that a little bit. I have a little tangent in the middle that I want to go into too, but
that guy B said, "I just found this channel one. Whoa, that set. That guy B, welcome.
That guy.
So
it's that guy.
It's that guy. Make sure that you're going back and checking out some of our older videos because we have a lot of stuff and we're very passionate about this franchise.
Oh, and Wendigo says they think that Mace's Starfighter showed up in the Gindi series.
Did it?
Yeah, I don't remember how he lands or gets to the part where they're burning everything with that crawler thing, right?
Yeah. Maybe it's during that. I left it off my list. I should have put Mace's droid chariot from the Gindi series that you hate.
Man.
I don't know why.
When he forced.
It's so cool, man.
It's cool, but it was just weird. He reached in and I'm like, how's he controlling this?
He just grabs wires and it's like that works and he's just moving.
That's
along.
magic.
That's magic. You're right. I do a super cut where it's like magic is just illusion.
Yeah, how are you doing this? How are you steering it by moving the wires or anything?
Maybe it's around then that he has his ship.
But it's a cool idea. Maybe he's just holding on and he's really controlling everything with the Force. Then I'm just like, okay, that's what he's doing. I get it now. So I'll just make that my canon. He's not controlling it by grabbing the wires. he's manipulating the whole thing with the Force and just holding on to it, like when you write
they're like electrified and it like shocks him, and he's like,
I'm trying to like it, Eric.
I know. Would it make more sense if it was Anakin with his droid hand? I know that doesn't really make sense, but would it make more sense?
I mean, Echo does a lot of stuff with his droid hand, you know, like, so yeah, why not, you know, like, Echo's like, and the door opens. I'm like, okay, yeah, that works. So sure, if it was Anakin with a droid hand, I'd be like, this is sweet, because it's amazing. He doesn't have a droid hand.
I should have put that on I'm so regretful I didn't put that on my list. No.
Yeah.
Stupid Dantooine. Stupid kid with his water.
Stupid kid with his water. All right, guys. Well, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is this new book that I think had just came out November or something
Very
like that.
recently,
Like it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, and the author, I recognize the author. He wrote a book in the old canon like 20 years ago.
Really?
What was it called? It was like
I'm assuming not Shatterpoint.
It wasn't Shatterpoint. That was Stackpole, I think. But it was like the C deception. I don't remember the C word was.
Oh.
The C word. It was that.
The C word.
Yeah.
I think you're opening up a can of worms with just saying the C word deception.
But I saw the author's thing, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's done an expanded universe book.
Cestus?
Yeah.
Or Kestis?
I think it was Cestus Deception. But it was a Clone Wars era book back in the day. So I remember reading and being like, don't know that guy? Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
The Cestus Deception.
And that was not about Mace Windu? Do you know?
He's in it.
Okay.
It's not like Shatterpoint. That's like,
Gotcha.
I feel like this one is more Shatterpoint than.
We had, we have Timothy Zahn writing Thrawn books after he had wrote the original Heir to the Empire and stuff. So I'm like, oh, maybe you take some of these writers that wrote, here's the old EU. Now let's have them write, like, well, this guy did Shatterpoint. It'd be cool to bring him in and do a Mace Windu book or something, you know? But I also understand, like, maybe they're not writing anymore. They're not interested in that. Have passed. It's been a long time. It's a lot of years now.
There are. Garrus says, you can't just casually talk about the C word. I know.
That's what I'm saying.
You can in Australia.
The C word deception. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the Glass Abyss is the now current canon Mace Windu novel taking place, I want to say between 2 and 3, but really taking place between 1 and 2. Yeah. But it's really right after 1.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's like a week later, I think, that a lot of this starts taking place. And
yeah. So the basic setup is that, I'd encourage you to read the book, but the basic setup is that Qui-Gon posts hominous after he died.
Posthumous.
Yeah. He like sends a message to Mace like, hey, there's this thing going on at this planet. I promise I'd take care of it. I'm dead. I can't. Will you?
Yeah. Well, and while he's talking about that too, he's like, I have something else I have to deal with. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go back. And I'm like, I guess he was going to do this, but then he got called to go help Naboo with this trade dispute.
That?
You
like,
know?
Did he record it like before he got on the...
It must have been before going on the
ship?
The ship that goes to the blockade, right?
I guess, because at that point on, he can't send any transmissions.
And he's pretty busy for a lot of it. I mean, he does get back to Coruscant.
He does.
And I doubt he did it then.
Yeah.
You know?
I doubt it. Because, he had just been like, well,
but
F you then. I'll train him. I'll do it.
But, I mean, maybe he did. Maybe there's an element there where he's like, I know, like, this is much more dangerous than I thought it was. I need to make sure that this isn't forgotten. Let me record this before helping this queen go back to Naboo.
I was initially, and I suppose you could still say this still kind of holds up, but I was kind of excited when I read that because when I can't think of a Jedi more opposite from Mace Windu than Qui-Gon Jinn.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, when you mention things like Gray Jedi and you're like, man, I don't really like the idea of Gray Jedi, I'm like, man, I think Qui-Gon's one of the closest ones to being, like, not on, like, a real far, like, at least the Jedi Order that we know. I think he's the closest probably to Jedi ways naturally, I suppose.
He's not dogmatic.
Yeah.
He's much more faithful.
The living force, right, is the thing that he really pushes into. And I think that fits more. Qui-Gon's the most, like, Jedi, I think, of the Republic, because I think, like, so many fall to, like, we are on the Republic side. Like, that's why you don't... I think Qui-Gon in the Clone Wars would have fought with separatists. Like, he'd have been helping them. He would have been helping the Republic. He'd have been helping both sides. I don't think he would have been as, like, no, we can only help the Republic.
Yeah, dude, like, when you first... Because you said that a couple of times now. When you first say it, I'm like, I don't know if he would, but, like, the more and more you say it, and the more and more, like... When I love that Dooku scene, it's like I wish Qui-Gon was here now.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon Jinn would never join you. Like, it would be so interesting if he did.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
It would be so cool
like,
to watch.
I think Qui-Gon would have understood more of what Dooku
so.
meant a little bit more than I think like Mace Windu's like, no, these are the rules. Yeah. Here's the lines, and you're crossing the line. And
Mace will look at the rules and be like, see, you can't do it. And Qui-Gon's like, so?
Yeah.
What's that matter?
You already have a pupil, right? You already have an apprentice.
Yeah,
oh, no, he's good. He's done. I'm going to take a new one.
Yeah, Mace is like, it's against the code. You can't do that. He's like, screw the code. Have you seen this kid's levels?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I do think they're very different. But I guess that's why I think of, like, Grey Jedi not necessarily... It's a weird thing. You have to think about what is the Jedi religion. And maybe the Jedi ways get even more explanations with what they do with the biblical that they're working on,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
The way back when.
Prime Jedi stuff.
Yeah, like what is the idea of what a Jedi is meant to be?
Yeah.
And I think Ahsoka and Qui-Gon fall more into that than like Mace Windu does. Because I think Mace Windu starts falling into like strong soldier like roles and like very very headstrong on like rules.
Yeah.
Whereas Qui-Gon's more of like, how do I help people? What's a good way to help people? And who can I help?
I also don't think that means that like Qui-Gon is right and Mace is wrong.
Sure.
I think that the right opinion, if that's even the right term, is somewhere in the middle. Because I do kind of consider Mace to be like the ultimate dogmatic Jedi. In which case, yes, he is flawed. But I also kind of feel they're necessary flaws. Like, yeah, everything's flawed.
Yeah.
The Jedi are flawed this way. But it's kind of the best way you can do it and not follow the dark side. Because, you know, the Grey Jedi thing that I think a lot of, like, fans get into and be like, oh, we could do this and this, I feel like kind of goes against what Lucas was saying, what the dark side is and what the Force is.
Sure.
Lucas is kind of more like, no, the Force is the light side. That's it. The dark side is a corruption of that. You know, so if you go more like the balance and like I can do, you know, here and here, that's why it's like the mystery of the balance of the Force, because it's something that we're trying to achieve, but it might be impossible.
Sure, I guess so. Because then like you have George who also did like the Mortis trilogy,
exactly.
and you definitely have like a dark side there. But is the brother more meant to just be like, there is the light side and what the father and the daughter do, but then the brother's being corrupted, and that's what this is becoming.
I mean, George, I think, is a student of like, you know, Campbell, and he loves mythology that like the more you know, the less you understand it, kind of, you know? So I think there's a lot of debate and ideas of like, and this is what the Jedi and the Sith, and as we learn, other people try to interpret the Force. But yeah, it's interesting. I love the Qui-Gon Mace, because whenever I was reading this and being like, oh, Qui-Gon sent a message. Is this going to be like Qui-Gon's final lesson for Mace or something? But that didn't exactly happen. Like this book goes in a direction that I did not see coming. A lot of it I enjoyed. Some of it was not necessarily my thing, but I'm curious what you think of it.
There's parts of this book that I really like, and there's part of this book that like I don't know. I think there was a lot that was going on, so like a lot of it kind of like muddles in my mind. I wanted to get through this twice.
Me too.
And I wasn't able to.
To the point where like this morning we were like, should we like delay until next week and just read the book again?
And read it again? Yeah.
Because I often find like, especially something I don't like the first time, I'll enjoy it way more the second time. Like I did that with, you know, some scenes of Book of Boba Fett, some stuff from the sequel trilogy, some of the newer stuff where I'm like, oh, this is new and I don't know how I feel about it. The next time I absorb that content again and I'm not like guessing what's going to happen, I'm just kind of accepting / trying to understand it more, I end up enjoying it a lot more. So I haven't gotten to do that with this yet.
It's that idea of trying to watch, like if you watch I don't know, a movie with like a big twist at the end.
Yeah.
And like the first ride is more about like just what happens and getting the twist and the surprise and all that kind of stuff. And then when you watch it the next time, you're catching more of the foreshadows that were pointing towards it that maybe you didn't realize was foreshadowing because you didn't know necessarily where you were going yet.
Sure.
And I like being able to do that with the books where this book has a really good bookend of like the very first thing you get to the very last thing you get. And I had kind of forgotten what the very first thing I got was. Yeah. So, like, when I started listening to it again, I'm like, oh, well, that's really cool that, like, here's this introduction and what we're getting and, like, telling of a story. And this is the mindset you have. And then when you get to the end, you're hearing that, but you have a different perspective. And you have, and it really, it actually goes with what I'm saying here. Like, when I hear that time, I thought of those exact same words a little different. because now I have what that story was that it was about, that they're talking about. It's like the web weaver, like giving a story to children kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool.
Definitely.
So I just don't have that for all of the book. And no. Overall, though, going through it my first time, like I got to points where I was like, I've lost characters. Like they'll bring someone up, I'm like, shoot, who was this person again? Because there was so many new characters and stuff that were coming in.
I will say, like, I'm a sucker for lore and world building. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love Star Wars so much. But like, there's a lot of world building in this.
There's a lot of it,
and we build one world.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere else.
It's very fully realized. It's honestly, it feels a little bit more. It's more Dune than it is fantasy in a way for me. Not to say that as a bad thing. It's more sci-fi than it is space opera.
Okay.
I feel like the world building and stuff like that, which I do greatly enjoy.
I guess I get what you mean a little bit, because there's a lot of this in Metagos, which we go to on this. There's a lot that rides on this silk, this like webbing that's being made, and like
from these worm spider dudes.
Yeah, these. Is that a worm? Is that a spider? What is that? But like they're making this like silk, and then they process it, and then it turns into like this real strong material, which is worth money, and then that's how this planet kind of keeps its productions and stuff going. But like by creating that and the ways they use that stuff, and where those creatures come from, and like there's a lot, like all that is within this world,
and that's just a small part of it. Like I know 7 levels of this planet.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a palace floating in the sky held by this stuff. You know, like there's a lot of elements of that and building of it, and I guess there's a lot of science fiction aspects to it versus some fantasy aspects.
Just in terms of the world building itself, you know. But I do like that we kind of get a new Force tradition, right, with the web on this planet.
Yeah.
They call it the web, but it's kind of just another aspect of the Force. Though this one does have something special in that this planet is connected.
Yeah.
The whole planet. But we get Mace gets this message from Qui-Gon. He comes to this place that is kind of something terrible happened on this planet.
Yeah.
Some type of like sun radiation thing happens every 1,000 years, and everybody has to descend to underground. But the planet is like crystalline. It's like things are see-through. It's really evocative. I thought the visual descriptions were really cool. There was just a lot of it, to the point where like there were so many details I was kind of losing the overall part of it sometimes.
Gotcha.
But that's why I think rereading would benefit me greatly.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, this planet, something terrible happened. People went down underground, and they're now kind of caught in this loose war / alliance that these mainly 2 criminal organizations have.
Yeah, it's like you have like the Pikes and you have the Hutts, and
Kinda,
they live on this planet together.
Having just played out Star Wars Outlaws, I felt right at home. In fact, like there was a part of me as I was reading, like, man, this would be a cool game.
Yeah, yeah, it would be. It would be a neat place to go around and live in and stuff.
Because like Mace has to, Qui-Gon has a small history here, and they are aware of Jedi, and Mace has to kind of hide who he is. And he takes on like a secret name, and he kind of like goes undercover. He has like his own like little detective thing going on. And
I did like the like kind of the mystery aspect.
Yeah.
There's like a aspect where it's like, where'd these eggs go?
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out that.
And then even the droid
Maya
12.
Maya 12 and her sister Maya 8.
She's kind of like a
and her sister Maya 14.
Yeah.
And her sister Maya Haha.
Yep. They're kind of an interesting like play on the femme fatale.
Aren't they? They're what was the droid in Sam Witwer, Force Unleashed? Proxy. Yeah. That's the same kind of idea, right? A holo droid.
Yeah. Now, it is kind of interesting you bring up Proxy, because Proxy's like, he's kind of like a nanny. He's kind of like a caretaker a little bit too, because he helps raise Starkiller. Whereas this droid like has like, you can like hire them. They don't have like a master. They kind of have like jobs. Like you could hire him to be your therapist. You could hire him to paint your your ceiling.
Yeah.
Like they can do anything.
And they talk about that one point where it's like, they hired me for this, but if they would have hired me to be their therapist, I wouldn't have been able to do this or whatever it was. So.
Yep.
So yeah, I did like Maya. Maya was one, and the connection that Mace ends up with Maya, and like them working together, and like the prison and stuff too. Like there's a lot of aspects with that character. Maya, I think my favorite characters that helped Mace, I guess more so, were Maya, Wilf. Or Willif, he was like a doctor kind of dude.
Yes.
They walk through the city, and I really like their like exchange as they walk through the city, where it's like, well, I got to get over here, but you can come with me. But I like that character, and I also liked I think it's Vin. He was like the owner of the bar.
Bartender, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was cool.
I liked him a lot too.
Especially towards the end, where he's like, I'm not really like a fighter, but like inside me is my warrior ancestors coming out. That was cool. Yeah.
But like when talking about the noir detective aspect of it, like him going up and asking him for like answers or different things, like the way he would answer, I loved, because it was usually giving Mace what he wanted, but indirectly too, because he's like, I can't incriminate myself, so it's like, I wouldn't know that.
Sure.
But if I was gonna look, I'd probably go over here. Like it was just fun to like listen to them talk about what they were doing and what Mace needed to know.
Oh, I also kind of wanted to shout out the just for the audiobook, the guy that read the audiobook. I thought he did a good job. I liked his Mace, and he had a very soothing voice, but it was also perfect for speeding up on Audible.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because there's like 70 some chapters in this book. Not all of them are very long, but it's a long book.
Yeah,
So
sure.
There's a couple times where it's like, man, I got to get through this, and I got 8 hours left. I was like, I'm gonna make it 6 hours left, and his voice was kind of suited for that.
Gotcha.
It didn't feel rushed whenever I would listen to it on higher speed.
I did have fun with his Yoda was a little more Kermity, I think, I just had fun with it too.
Yeah.
It's always fun to hear different people's like Yodas and like especially the voices that you already kind of know.
Yeah.
Like hearing the takes on those and people who attempt those is always fun.
Yeah, we learn a decent amount about Mace Windu's past in this, which I thought was kind of interesting. With they have this nightmare thing going on this planet.
Sure.
To the point where like Mace is literally like reliving his time before being a Jedi, which I'm not really sure. Did it say like exactly how old he was?
I don't remember an age.
He's young enough where like so his family pretty much get like eaten by bears.
Yeah,
right?
Something like that.
Probably
Yeah.
insulted someone for being bald, got bears sent on him.
Bears.
So he's like kind of a baby, and the Jedi are like, well, we're gonna take him, but it needs to be his choice because there's no one to give permission or whatever. As the Jedi like to take very young kids.
To take kids, yeah.
They kind of do this like thing where it's like, here's some toys, like which one do you like? And he's like, oh, lightsaber, It's like, oh, okay, I guess he chose being a Jedi. That part I thought was interesting. It was kind of not corny, but like I didn't love it or whatever, but it kind of made me laugh when he's like, yeah, he went for the lightsaber.
That's what I did with my kids when I'm like, all right, here's a Charmander, here's a Bulbasaur, here's a Squirtle. Now crawl over and pick one.
Pick one. That's good. Hey, we had a super chat on YouTube. ML with a $5 super chat, or $4.99, says, "You guys are great, longtime fan, and you guys are my go-to guys for Star Wars knowledge. Keep it up, fellas. Love from Michigan."
Well, thank you, ML.
Awesome. You're just north of us. We're over down here in Ohio.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. No. The progression of that nightmare thing too, and like him, I guess learning their web ways.
Yeah.
Where he kind of like Doctor Strange's or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
Because like he's having those nightmares and he's trying to figure out answers and stuff too. But it was a nice, I guess, vehicle to try to get more into his head too, and get more into his past, I guess, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But no, like him, I think one of my favorite things about Star Wars and the Force is those different ways of seeing what the Force is for different races or peoples or planets or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I love whether it's
they're not mutually exclusive.
No.
If you look at like various faiths and religions that we have here on Earth, some of them are mutually exclusive. Like they cannot coexist. But generally, the Star Wars that appeals to the Force or the web or whatever it is, like sometimes it feels very individualistic, like the High Republic Jedi. But other times when you see these other traditions, you can kind of be like, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying here.
You're just getting a chance to see like, well, how do they connect to the same stuff that we all connect, and what do they call it? Like the Force is just what we call it because that's what we started with, right?
Yeah.
But like if we just started with the web or whatever the Bardottans had a different kind of connection to it, right? Yeah. Same thing with the Witches of Dathomir. Like they all have this weird and different connection to essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
But getting to see that and how they use it, or how it manifests on like the Wellspring, or like the Mortis trilogy, where like that's all still the Force doing things.
It is.
We just get to see it in different ways.
We only know a very small part of it.
Yeah.
The potential of what that is almost infinite. We don't know.
Yeah, and I always think it's just fun to learn like their ways a little bit, or like what they think of it. And it was neat to have Mace be like, so tell me about the web, like what is this stuff that you guys do? And he's just like, it's the Force, like.
And
that's
he
what it is.
he joined, like, he's a web dude now.
Yeah, like he did a dance and everything, right?
He did a dance, like he was pretty much like, I got two families now, the Jedi and this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn, okay,
yeah,
hell yeah.
And they called him family, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like they were,
but like. I don't know if, like, during the Clone Wars, he's like, hey, guys, I got to, like, it's web day,
Web day.
I have to, like, I have to do some web stuff today or something like that. I did kind of feel, because there's some really interesting stuff this book goes into. I personally kind of felt a disconnect of, like, because if I read this book, I expect Episode 1 Mace to be very different from Episode 2 Mace, but I don't really think that, because that's not how time works. This comes much later than when those were made.
Sure.
But
does like having this, like, you should see that change or that difference, and it does. We don't really see that, right?
Right.
I get what you mean.
Yeah. This has a really interesting, no attachment Jedi relationship.
Yeah.
I did not expect a Mace love story as I went into this book.
I did not either. And
I'm still almost grappling with how I feel about it.
And it was. I don't know. I guess we want to go into like more later into the book and stuff.
No,
like
I'm all over
you're hitting with like Qui-Gon's like the reason Qui-Gon like says, Mace, you need to go. He's like, I was hoping this would help your heart. Like it would heal your heart a little bit.
That's kind of the lesson, I guess.
Which I'm like, he seemed to have an idea, a notion, or something with this.
Yeah.
But
you know who this girl really like? Mace
Windu. Yeah, right. His friend, his best friend.
Yeah.
Like they kind of look at each other.
I mean, he set her up with the
But
second baddest Jedi.
I get what you mean, where you get that question where you're like, yeah, but he did this. If this helped heal his heart, why do I feel like Episode 1 and Episode 2 doesn't really change at all, And it's like, well, this happened a week after Episode 1, and then for 8 years, it scarred again. I don't know.
When the Clone Wars happened, and that's 3 years of chaos. Yeah, no, I get you. And the veil of the dark side is, becoming more and more, or less and less translucent.
I did like, and it's within all that, was the Mace and Yoda conversation that they had about it. And there was, I don't remember how Mace worded it, but it was something like, did you ever get a chance to turn away? Or did you ever turn away from leaving the Order? Or something like that. And I just thought the conversation between those two was interesting. And I don't know, a little bit more personal between those two than usually I think Mace Windu is, I guess. I don't usually think of like, let's get personal with Mace Windu. I usually think of like the stoic, like this is what we got to do. So it was nice to kind of have that moment. And I always like whenever I get a chance to do it with characters that I'm also already familiar with. And Yoda's a great one because you see him leading so many individuals, whether they're like the younglings, in Episode 2, or Luke Skywalker in Episode 5, like whatever it is. He's a good vessel to have, like, well, what does this person need to hear? And I don't know. I like that mainly just because of getting a chance to also hear if Yoda ever did that, which I believe he said no. I think I'm pretty sure.
So. Yeah.
So I'm like, interesting. So there was never, we have a Duchess for Obi-Wan, and he turns away from that. He doesn't, but there was a chance where it could have happened,
If said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
Anakin, we get to see that, and he just doesn't. He does that, and he does this. He takes both of them. We see what that does.
I mean, there's a point when I was reading this where I was like, man, this Mace Windu might have made a really good master for Anakin Skywalker. If you had just maybe trusted that kid a little bit more, if you had actually talked with him and treated him like a person and not like your chosen one savior.
Yeah, you wouldn't have thrown out a window.
You have to literally thump the Bible on, Like, you might have been a really good master for this kid. You guys have... If you had taught him Vipad, we might not have had the Galactic Empire.
Maybe. Yeah, right?
know?
I don't know.
Maybe let that kid channel his darkness and not be consumed by it.
Have we had... I'm trying to think of Mace's, like, apprentices. Have we ever seen much for that? Because I don't know that
Deppa.
I necessarily... Deppa's one of his apprentices?
Am I right about that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's Mace, then Deppa, then Kanan.
Is that okay? Is that what the route? Because I know like there's like what Yoda, Dooku, Qui-Gon, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. And I'm like, who is Mace trained? And I didn't realize.
Yeah. Though Nexus, you might be able to help me out with this. I remember Mace had a different Jedi Master in the original expanded universe. And I feel like he has a new one now, just been canon, because I think I just read that when I was studying for Schmodown. But they referenced the old one in this one. So I was just curious if there's any, like, official confirmation on who Mace's master, or he could have just had two different masters. I mean, we certainly talk about Yoda being Obi-Wan's master, though not really.
Is it a name that was kind of like Terasa or something like that?
Yeah.
Because that one, I was debating. I'm like, this is like Mace teacher, and I was like, is that like his master, or is that like, Yoda is teaching a bunch of younglings? Is this Terasa? Like, I don't know when Sindralik took over teaching like Jedi saber fights, but he was talking about Terasa being there when I first fought and won my first like lightsaber battle or something like that. And I'm like, maybe that's the person training lightsabers, but not like his master. So I wasn't sure what that was either.
But yeah, I remember Terasa being his master back in the day. But
okay.
But yeah, that's his master in Legends. You will meet his canon master later. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Maybe in those aforementioned canon comic miniseries. Yes, we need to get to those.
Probably not.
Interesting. And I'm actually, the more I read more Star Wars, the less and less I'm like beholden to canon. That's not what his master is,
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea that you could just be like, yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
There are many teachers for us throughout our lives.
But yeah, with Mace Windu, the love story aspect, like whatever that was going to be, I wasn't quite expecting that to be there at the end. I kind of was one of the reasons why I also kind of wanted to like re-listen again to it and kind of like think about those characters more so as the book went through. Once I got to the end, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's times where he's like, hey, oh my God, she actually smiled, and it was actually kind of pleasant.
It was nice.
You know, I would like to see that more, please.
Yeah.
I just thought he was just like, man, she's a sad lady. But no, he's like, she's a nice sad lady.
What'd you think of? We had really, I only think one main villain in this. Like you said about the two gangsters and stuff, and I don't know. I never felt like
the other one. Like
Sybil was okay, I guess.
I only say it because that was the one that Qui-Gon was after, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the other...
But Chulok.
What'd
you think of Chulok?
I think Chew plus Lock equals Chulok.
I want a picture.
I was disturbed by Chulok. Okay, so Chulok is two people.
Chulok is a
Rodian?
It's a Rodian and like a Farakian or something like that.
Farakians scare me.
And they have some kind of like mental and physical binding they can do with like another person or creature.
So like Chulok has 4 legs and 4 arms and 2 minds and 4 eyes.
Yeah. So
but
like
they are 2 people.
They're like 2 people merged into one.
Yeah.
And the reason I want a picture because I'm like I don't know if this guy does it look like Cat Dog? Does it look like Machamp?
Yeah. Is it like Goro and it's like on your shoulders?
Yeah. Is it more like that with 4 arms and 4 legs, like a centaur Machamp looking kind of thing? Is it like a cat dog and they're like where are they combined? How are they fused?
I kind of imagine it being like here and he's like around so you could have like arm.
Like I picture their heads being up here.
Yeah.
But then also like Cat Dog, like they can talk to each other and they look at each other a little easier,
Cat Dog, yeah.
So I was thinking about that, but the idea of it and just like I don't know. It seems gross.
Next it says there's no image of Chulok. So it's up to your imagination. Maybe I'll have to draw it one day.
I'm going to picture a cat dog looking thing.
Okay. I'll go Goro. You're on your shoulders. Goro.
Because that was how I imagined it. Most of it, I think, was like them being connected, but like some kind of like almost worm-like thing, but they can walk. I don't know. It was a weird.
I hated it. Yeah. I hated whenever this one would speak. It freaked me out.
Dude, when I would listen to it in the truck, it was really cool because it felt like both of their voices were all around me. And I was listening to it with one of the kids, I can't remember, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And I was like, this is like 2 people that are one people.
And like, it sounds like it's an agreement in that the Rodian wanted this to happen. But like, do we know that? Could this be like could it be a parasite species?
We must know that because like later on, there's like there's a ceremony or whatever they're doing where they try to get the Trinity.
Yeah, I know.
And like it seems like they're asking, not just like taking.
But like,
you know,
if I was a parasitic species, I would sell that as well. But, oh yeah, fine, come on, you can leave whenever you want. Now I have fucking 8 legs,
8.
You know what I mean? Math. I don't know. I'm afraid of that thing. That scares me.
I guess so. I think it surprised Mace Windu when they were like,
did.
"Hey, do you want to be our third?"
I need to know what it looks like because I just don't buy that would make you a super awesome fighter.
It supposedly does.
I had to see what it looks like,
Yeah.
Like maybe the other one's over you like an exoskeleton or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I also want. Do we know what the Farakians or whatever they like? I don't know what that is either.
No,
I never heard of that before too.
We have no image of Chulak or Faraki.
Faraki. Nexus mentions the bone bridge, which is I think why I picture more of like a cat dog thing because I picture like this bone bridge connecting them together, and I don't know. I don't know what it is. I also I only imagine with things I've already seen. I feel like so I don't create new things. I just oh look at that, pull that here. That's what it looks like. Put a Rhodian head over here. I don't know what a Farakian is, but put that over there.
King Mauler is funny. I can't believe we have all these crazy planets, storylines, characters. We always end up on a goddamn sand planet in the movies. It's like, well, hey, movies are expensive and deserts
are everywhere,
they're
right?
Everywhere.
And they're empty, and people don't go there trying to watch what your movie is, right?
I gotta build 7 levels of crystal.
Yeah, right.
But I get you. I understand.
I don't know. Chulak. I mean,
the surface was a desert. Kind of, right? It's like a glass desert.
Glass desert, yeah.
Yeah.
Chulak, I think, is an interesting villain because it's supposed to be really strong, like you said, right? It's supposed to be one of the great fighters. Strong. But they also have
2 men.
They have this element of also being real smart.
Yeah.
And
2 brains. They're
constantly trying to figure out is there a Jedi here? Who is Mace Windu? It's they're constantly testing him, and I liked a lot of that. I don't think there's necessarily anything I don't like about Chulak.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, he was a fun villain. There was a part later on, and we were getting into the late chapters of the book, and I was like, "Wait, what happened to Chulak?
Yeah,
he just get okay? Is that what happened to him? All right, all right. Well, fine, I guess." But I was glad that
he kind of had the energy of he just didn't have big bad energy for me.
Yeah.
He had sub boss energy or anime movie and the bad guy has 5 henchmen and there's the pretty one and then there's the one with the weird power and then there's the dumb one and Chulak is the one with the weird power.
Okay.
I think Dragon Ball movies, they all have that same layout.
Well, I think you do that though when well, I guess not in Dragon Ball, but I think about those kind of things when you have the main villain who is just the old guy with the money.
Yeah, sure.
And then you have here's his 5 henchmen that are all really good at protecting him and doing the stuff that he can't do. I think about that a lot more too. Whereas this guy I think is he's scary, he thinks stuff out pretty well.
He's certainly unique and I did not expect him to be such a foil to Mace.
Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty good. I really like towards the beginning there's a person trying to cross a bridge and Mace it's I forget what he says because you find out that Sybil mainly hires their kids and just births a lot of kids one every day, but he's looking at these 2 guys too much ugly for one mama. He's you must be Chulak's people. And then he beats them up and says tell Chulak to come get his trash or something like that.
Yeah,
and that's his no, get my resume or something like that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I just love the moment. It also feels very Mace Windu for some reason, too.
It's one of those the party's over feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
That's too much ugly for one mama. I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
But, no, I like that moment. And it was also they were harassing this mom and their kid who was trying to get to go get water and laughing at haha, it'd take them all day to go get the water now because they won't pay the toll on their bridge.
Yep.
So, and it just also helped show the corruption and badness of this city.
Yeah.
So,
but no, the book had a lot of detail. There was a part of me that was I don't know if you need all this detail, but like I said, I think a second read through would help me absorb it a lot more, maybe appreciate it a lot more.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It wasn't my if I have to pick Shatterpoint or this, I go Shatterpoint. But I also have rose-colored glasses. I got to reread Shatterpoint at some point too. But I certainly didn't have that feeling the first time I read that book.
Okay.
So, I don't know what your thoughts are on that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember Shatterpoint too well. It's one of the few Star Wars books I've read. Back before we started doing this, where I didn't read a lot of the EU stuff. but I remember like reading through and enjoying it and liking it for the most part. And then when I finished this one too, or even like in the middle of it too, I was like trying to like, okay, wait, so we're here and we're doing it. There was just, it felt like a lot in my head I was trying to keep track of.
Which is interesting in a story that takes place on one planet.
And one
like
planet,
Star Wars is
mainly focused on just one. We weren't really jumping around like, what was it, Master and Apprentice, where you have like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and you'd be talking to both, and
you do a lot of
yeah,
stuff,
or Anakin and Obi-Wan in Brotherhood or something.
And you're
like that.
right, it was primarily Mace Windu's point of view. As well.
Yeah. It wasn't very often that we jumped to other people. It did happen some. That one guy when he was like dying in the gates or the walls, all the things coming at him. Like, we jumped and got his kind of like last moments a little bit, but most of it's all from Mace's perspective.
Maybe that's why I kind of like, hey, this would be, and I played Outlaws. This would be kind of a cool video game. It's like one setting, one character.
Yeah.
Whereas it's hard to do a video game with 20 characters with 10 different planets in a movie, that type of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot more there. I did like our visual that we got with Qui-Gon's funeral. There was a little bit more there, which I thought was interesting, and we got to hear them talk about being on Naboo and where they were resting him, and like knighting their sabers, kind of like
I like the detail that
salute
that Yoda uses Qui-Gon's saber to light his own pyre. That was kind of cool.
Like, I think there's just a few things like that where it's like, well, I didn't get that from the movie, so it's cool to get some different perspective on this, which is neat to have.
That was cool. We also got a small scene with little Annie, little Jake Lloyd Anakin. In that scene where he comes in and talk with the younglings, and Anakin's, even then, I think he says something like his determination was frightening or something like that compared to the other.
Little Anakin had some comment where he's like, the Jedi aren't supposed to feel, or something like that, and it's like, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan told me this, and it's like, well, it's not quite it.
Yeah.
There's something along those lines.
You don't ignore your feelings. You're supposed to absorb them or something like that.
Yeah, it was something where it's like
a little more Viapad.
You're not quite on the right track, but you're kind of almost
there.
Again,
like reading that, I was just kind of like, man, I know Obi-Wan made the promise, but like you have a set of skills and beliefs that might benefit this young child. Though I guess the idea is they don't know that.
Yeah. And then I also liked there was I think might have been around the bridge scene too, where like he can't use his lightsaber because he doesn't want people to know he's a Jedi. So he hides it inside his stick, right? Yeah. And I thought that was great that he did that. But he has this like memory talking about his lightsaber, and it's like people ran at the sight of it. They would give up and drop their weapons at the sign of his purple lightsaber.
Yeah.
And one, I thought that was interesting because it's like, well, I mean, not a lot of people must have purple lightsabers, right? Yeah. Like it must be pretty rare. Like he's the only one, especially in like the prequels, that I'm like, there's a purple lightsaber. So I just like that he had this like, there was like a notoriety about him. Like if you saw a purple lightsaber, like the soldier's here, the fighter, like he's coming in to like, you should give up and not fight this.
Yeah.
But then I also was wondering a little bit of like, how often were there purple lightsabers and stuff too? Because I can really only think of 2 people that have purple lightsabers, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I got a couple in my head, barring characters that can make their lightsabers all the colors they want, like Cal Kestis or something, or Jaden Core.
I mean, the only ones I think of are Mace Windu.
Okay, so there's Mace,
and then I think of
Darth Revan. There's also there's actually another one that we've seen in live action. Another live action purple lightsaber. Can you think of who they are? I almost said he. That would be incorrect.
In live action.
Yeah. It's just kind of cheating because you only see it for a second.
Is it an acolyte?
It's an acolyte.
That's the only thing I can think of that it would be in.
Row. She has a purple lightsaber.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe there's it's either is it purple or pink in one of the last High Republic that we did, like the more not bounty hunter but mercenary character. I can't think of her name right now, but she had like a purple or pink lightsaber. But either way, yeah, it's quite rare. Earlier when we was talking about my in my list how I actually appreciate how reading into Mace's dealing with the dark side and how he redeflects things, and I kind of am reading that into how he deals with the lightning now. Do you at all read into the idea that a purple lightsaber is literally a combination of blue and red?
Like it's more of a darker Jedi kind of thing?
I never really thought about it in that regard because generally I liked the old thing back in the day where it's like, blue was more for the warrior, green was more for the consular, yellow was a sentinel. That was kind of like Old Republic RPG stuff. Purple, I'm not really sure, but I guess you could say like maybe purple can be like a combination of a Jedi blue lightsaber like he has in this action figure, but utilizing red as well, so it comes out purple. I don't know. Like if this was the ninth Jedi from Star Wars Visions, like Mace's lightsaber might start blue, but as he uses Vipad, maybe it goes more purple. It's not red. He's not full dark side.
It didn't go red.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a thing?
A little red tint got joined in there. Yeah. It's like it only happens if you start to bleed but never finish bleeding your saber. You know what I mean?
Ty Yorick, that was her name, Nexus. Hers is also purple. So that would be another character that has a purple lightsaber. And if we go with the extended universe, Jaina Solo had a purple lightsaber.
Oh, really?
I believe Anakin Solo had a purple lightsaber as well. So there's some of the new Jedi Order stuff that had purple in there as well.
Yeah, I've never known their saber colors. I don't think I've ever dove into any of theirs.
Yep, that would be like the Vong, the Yusin Vong, and Legacy of the Force stuff, and they're really cool stories, but not canon. I'm going to say anymore, but they never really were canon. Lucas never looked at that and been like, "Yep, that's it."
There it is, Yusang Vong.
He's always just like, "I make money off that."
I've always heard about
Yusang.
I've always heard about Yusang Vong, and I've always thought it sounded like an interesting villain.
Really interesting. They are interstellar invaders, and because they are not from the galaxy far, far away, they are not subject to the Force.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
It's been like
but then they kind of are.
Some of my thoughts with like Thrawn and stuff too, and them going to like other places that aren't within our galaxy, and I was like, what are they going to defend against? Because it kind of felt like he's like, we got to defend against something that's coming. And I was like, what if there's like Yusang Vong coming, and that's what they're going to like have to defend about? And I was like, that could be cool. Yeah. But I don't know. I just want to see Yusang Vong because I probably will never read the books that they're in.
If I remember correctly, weren't the Vong going to appear like in the Clone Wars at one point, but they decided not to?
Really?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah. Mara Jade, I believe that Guy B is correct. I think Mara Jade also had a purple lightsaber before she started using Luke's lightsaber.
Oh, really?
Luke's blue lightsaber. Yeah.
I don't know why. I just pictured she had red, but she had red hair, so they probably wouldn't give her a red lightsaber. No. So that makes sense to give her purple.
But, I mean, she was Emperor's hand, so that would make sense to think that.
Sure.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think she had purple as well.
Did she have a whip?
No. You're thinking of Lumina. Lady Lumina.
Lady Lumina had a whip?
She had a whip.
But it wasn't a light whip, right? Just a whip?
It was a light whip.
It was a light whip?
It was solid, I think. I don't know, man.
Okay. I don't know why I'm picturing Mara Jade with a whip, so I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah. She eventually becomes Darth Lumina. And she trains Jason Solo, and then he becomes Darth Cadus. There's some cool stories.
Not good. Yeah, that's all bad.
Not good.
But no, I don't know. For the most part, this book, I think I enjoyed it more than I didn't enjoy it. I just think there was a lot there, and trying to keep all the different characters in my head. I think I fumbled a little bit. Like there's a point whenever
I felt the same way.
There was a point when there was like someone who was there that was like a big deal, like capturing Mace, and I was like, wait a minute, okay, where did this guy come from? And I forget what this guy's name is. So like I had to like catch up and try to be like, all right, where? And then I have to go back, and then I'm taking more time instead of like getting to continue my story with Mace and stuff. So the times I had those, I didn't enjoy as much, but that may be more on me than it is on the book, maybe.
I've been ever since we started Badonka Gonk, I've exclusively listened to the audiobooks. I almost never pull out the actual book, but I read a book that Jancy really likes called Fourth Wing, which is it's a series of books. It's about dragons. It's cool, but I read it on the Kindle, and I just kind of fell in love with like, what's this word? Oh, and it just like brings up the glossary and like all the times it's been mentioned. And who's this guy? Oh, you saw him in this page. Like, that's pretty cool. I might need to do that with more stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Lumina had a metal light whip thing, says Dr. Teak. Oh,
Gotcha.
And Irish Nexus. At Celebration Anaheim in 2015, Dave Filoni and Pablo revealed at their Untold Clone Wars panel that before the show was canceled, there had been plans for the Yusufin Vong to potentially appear in the Clone Wars television series. Sketches of the species drawn by Filoni for the show were shown. I'll have to look that up. That's cool. So Vong were going to show up at some point, but I know Dave always liked to do that. He knew the expanded universe pretty well, but he also understood that Lucas was like, that's not my thing, so he always tried to smuggle stuff in.
Sneak it in there.
He always did.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I have necessarily. I like that I like the theme, I think, of Mace Windu. Like, I think I like it. I don't know. I wrote it down. I thought it was interesting about him being drawn by duty but bound by love.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was like a two way of doing that they did with the one person, but then also with like his love for the people, like trying to take care of people and stuff too. I just thought it was interesting that they were just bringing in love, and I'm like, I don't usually relate love to Mace Windu, so I just thought it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about that scene in Episode 2 with Padme and Anakin, and talking about the Jedi are forbidden to love. It's like, no, like, love is, it's unconditional love. There's you can have a general feeling for people, but you can't have attachment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in, like, what are some successful Jedi relationships? Because we know that they're not celibate. We know that they...
Like, how does Mundi get through with everything?
Mundi, he does his duty.
Or is it just, it's a duty, there's
duty
no attachment?
Ends at booty for him. 8 wives. I don't know what he has.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
is that still canon or whatever?
I don't know.
Did the Acolyte mess that up?
I don't, not that I know of, but maybe.
Oh, man.
But no, yeah, I would be interested in knowing like that kind of thing, especially when you go back and like we're telling more High Republic stories and stuff too. And the further back you go, like when does that, like, has that always been a heavy like rule, or is that a rule that kind of happens later on?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you can love. I can love you. I just can't feel attached to you. Like Yoda says, like, hey, you can love things, just don't be afraid. But whenever they leave, you gotta learn to let them go.
Yeah.
So this is the Dave Filoni image.
Oh, the drawings
from
the okay.
Yeah, I definitely
is that
recognize
their ships?
That's their ships. They have organic. Everything's organic.
I know everything. I know that like they had a snake that's like a belt, but then they like would like whip it out, and now it's like a staff, and they would fight lightsabers.
It's called an ampy staff. Like rather than like sheathing your weapon, it'll just like crawl around you. It's kind of cool.
It's really crazy.
But the spikes that come out from the neck and the shoulders, like that was very the silhouette of the Vong from the comic covers and stuff like that. So he really nailed the look, but we never got anything like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I also enjoy, like I said about Yoda and Mace Windu talking and stuff too. There was a line that I don't know. It stood out to me about Mace Windu's like kind of there, and I think Yoda senses that he wants to talk about something, but he's not sure about talking about it. And Yoda says something along the lines of like, "Speak of the things you won't tell the archives." And I was like, so like if it's not in the archive, it doesn't exist. And I thought about that kind of stuff too, but I was just like, here's the stuff that like, we might not talk about Duchess. Obi-Wan's not going to maybe tell all of the Jedi Order about that. Mace Windu might not tell everything about Metagos that happened and stuff too, but I'm going to tell you these things, but not this part.
The things you leave out are sometimes more revealing.
Yeah. I just was like, okay, interesting. Sure. Even Mace Windu is like, the strict rule guy. I'm going to leave some stuff out of the archives there on this one.
I really like the book. There's just parts of me that kind of wish like, I can see that now. I can read that in. And there's some stuff that happens this morning. It's like, I don't know if I buy any of that. I don't know if that man changed much.
I really like the Padme books.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they gave really good intuition and, I don't know, just more to what I've already seen of these characters in these movies. Whereas this one, I'm like, this is a cool story, but I don't think it affects anything when I rewatch episodes 1 or 2 or any of that kind of stuff. Now, there was a moment at the end, and I want to ask you this because I think it's a thing that the internet's talked about for a long time, where I was like, oh, man, what if this Metagos place that he came and he helped, and now he has like this wife kind of thing here, whatever exactly they did with their webways, and I'm like, how terrible would it be if Mace Windu after episode 3 is here?
Okay, so he like goes out the window.
Is there a chance? Like what? I've heard of like people talking about like, what if Mace Windu could live? Like Darth Maul
I've heard Sam Jackson say that a lot.
Got cut in half.
Yeah,
and they brought him back and gave metal legs. Like he lost an arm and then thrown out a window.
Yeah.
Like, we could land on a speeder or
Palpatine,
something, right? Who knows?
Palpatine went down the Death Star shaft, and then the shaft blew up, and he's alive.
Yeah.
Let me be in there.
Yeah.
Call me. Sam Jackson's saying, I get you. So you think like, is there a way where Mace Windu like accepts his defeat and then like exiles himself back there?
I don't know. Yoda does it.
Yoda certainly does.
Yoda exiles himself.
But Yoda kind of like. He takes that loss real hard.
He does.
He's like, not only did I lose, like, none of us will ever win again for 20 years.
So he's like, man, I lost. This is a terrible time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Because Mace doesn't feel 10,000 Jedi die. He's the first of them to die.
Yeah.
Yoda is like, all right, we get one shot. You go for that Sith, I go for this one. I failed. We lost. See ya.
Yeah.
Bail gets him and gets him out of there.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Mace, I would imagine if Windu survived and was able to move or do anything, would also keep going. He wouldn't just stop. But
like,
he doesn't write in a reason why, like, he was barely there, and months later he wakes up in a coma and doesn't realize who he is, and somehow makes his way. Just like webs, you know.
And maybe he doesn't do this,
Yeah.
but like, what are your thoughts then on like just like if he was to survive? Do you think that would be an interesting thing to do, or is that too cliche now in Star Wars, where like there's a lot of these guys who like when they die and they fall somewhere real far, never believe they're dead because they're probably going to show back up?
I mean, like, if you would ask me like, hey, is there a Star Wars story you want to tell? Like, I would never say Mace Windu comes back. But if someone else is like, oh, I think there's to be a real cool story here. There's nothing about what I love about Star Wars that would be like, no, this is real life and you're showing me that it's not reality. He's like, it's fiction. Anything could happen.
Sure.
Yeah. So if you have a fun story or a good story that takes place after, like, I'm there. I'll check it out. But it wouldn't be something that I feel needs to be told. But I would love if an artist was like, actually, I think there is something, and it's this, and if I loved it, then I'd be like, I was wrong. So
yeah,
I think I'm probably like default, like, no, keep him dead. I think it's more important that like the dogmatic one of the Jedi like faces the consequence of like, you thought you could do this and you can't. Mm-hmm. You thought Anakin was on your side and he's not. I think there needs to be a consequence to that. But I've been wrong about that before. Not wrong. I don't think you can be right or wrong. I've been swayed by that before.
Swayed.
Yeah.
And I would be interested with chat what you guys think too on like if you think Mace Windu could or should come back, or if you like where it just kind of ends it. So
I mean, it's not like Sam Jackson was the most. He was in his, I guess, like, he could do a lot of stuff back in 2005. He can't do a whole lot these days. He would be like, Sam Jackson's cool, looking a little older, got a good stunt guy, So
yeah, right. Maybe. I get what you mean. Mm-hmm. Tamara Morrison's a little older in Boba than he was back during Episode 2, right?
Ray Stevenson did it really well. He's an older guy, and he got to bring it a little bit, and the stunt guy did.
You give him a robot arm, now he can actually fly that chariot. Right?
You're so right.
Right? Now he's like, now you fly the chariot!
That one comment alone changes things for me. We could canonize the chariot scene with a robot arm.
We could.
Damn.
Was it the opposite or the same arm that Anakin lost? They both lost their right arm.
He comes down with the right. And then he cuts off the right. Anakin loses his right.
He's right as well, right? Dang. I was hoping they could, like, robot hand, like, arm wrestle.
So funny.
That'd be great.
Vader and Mace.
I guess both of his arms are now cut off at that point.
They are.
So he could still do it. So
you're right.
It doesn't really matter, I guess, anymore. But, no, that was, like, one of my questions, like, at the end. Like, I was thinking about that. Like, what if he showed up at the end here?
Yeah.
And it's like we cut, I don't know, 20 years in the future, however far it is, 10 years plus 3 or whatever. Yeah. Like, and now, like, oh, he lost, he died. Does she feel it? Does she not feel it in the web, Because there is that, like, web connection thing they always talk about.
Would she feel it?
Or do they make any kind of nod at all to it? And
they both are really good at not feeling attached to each other.
Yeah.
Like, they love each other, but they're not attached. Which doesn't make sense to me.
I love the way they talked about, what was the line they said? They held each other as close as two people with no attachments could, or something like that. And I was like, huh.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Like, what does that mean?
Because, I mean,
it's like, that just means, like, you just hold each other close, but you don't.
I mean, that's why love is so powerful, because it evokes, like, if you do something to someone that I love, I will do terrible things to you. Whereas if it's just someone like, I like that person, oh, what'd you do?
Damn
you know?
it,
I'd be like,
no.
dang it, that sucks, you know? But you do something to someone I love, like, I'll go Sith, you know? Which is why I'm like, I understand why Jedi who are blessed with all this power must deny themselves something that the rest of us get to enjoy. Yeah, I get that. But, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. After that, I don't think I have too much else.
Yeah.
We should probably also make sure that we get into next time we do Gonk and whatever questions we can get
Yes,
to, right?
we should. We only have 20 minutes left, and we made a promise. All questions.
Yeah. So was there anything else you had with the book or anything that we didn't get to talk about that you're like, I really want to make sure I mention this? Or
No, other than I think initially when I finished reading it, I was just kind of like, that was okay. But then, like, as I was going over, getting ready for the podcast and stuff, I was like, actually, I like that part, though, and I like that part, and I like that part. And I kept going back, like, what was this part? This is good. And I was, like, seeing breadcrumbs that the author was leaving. That was like, oh, that's why it's so detailed, you know? So I'd like to reread it.
Yeah.
I don't often say that after these.
I think my first time through, like, I really like Brotherhood. Brotherhood was one of my favorites. But I think I connected with it a lot more the first time through, where I feel like this one, my second time, I'll be, like, much more understanding and enjoying it a lot more than I did my first time.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't think the book was bad. It's just that plus what we talking about where it's like, I don't feel a difference after reading this on the characters that I feel like I should feel.
Yeah, which is like, it's almost like an unfair thing to ask of your reader. Like, well, I didn't. It's not the goal, but it feels like with what happened, it should.
Yeah.
It feels like it's now weird that it didn't.
Yeah.
I get
like
you.
The Padme trilogy, I think, might be my favorite trilogy of books that we've read out of all the Star Wars books because of the difference that I feel towards her and her handmaidens.
Agreed.
That I didn't get from the movies. Like, it added so much more to everything. Yeah. Whereas this one, I'm like, this is really cool, and I like the things it's giving me, but I don't feel like I've really gotten it added to Mace in the other ones. So,
but as Nexus said, it is nice that we got a new novel. Like, you know, we haven't done that really. Something that just came out. So we've been kind of furiously catching up.
Yeah, I think it's like November, October. Like it's not been out very long. Yeah. So. All right, well, guys, we should get into our Q&A, see what questions you guys have for anything, and then we'll let you guys know too what our next book is going to be, and our next date for Gonk. So, which I see Jake from
State Farm.
State Farm, yeah, that's what I think that's what it's meant to be. It doesn't have all the letters there, but I was a little like, wait, what is this? Could Mace have prevented the fall of the Jedi Order? You messed with me and I got confused. No, go back now again. If he had acted differently during the confrontation with Palpatine. Yes. 100%, right?
I very much believe that. I mean, you know, if he had taken Anakin along with him, you know, he's like, no, I don't trust you. You stay here. I'll take 4 sweet dudes that definitely will beat Palpatine, or 3 other dudes, and we'll go arrest them. You know, if he had taken Anakin, I think it would have been very different.
And he also, like, with Anakin there, went to he's too dangerous to be left alive. Like, what if Anakin and him would have, like, walked him down and put him into prison? And I know it's Palpatine, and it's like, well, you're probably not going to hold him. He could do whatever he wants. But at least then you're getting to the point where it's like you're trying to do the Jedi way until he – and from that perspective, when Anakin walks in, you have him on the ground and you've defeated him, you know?
Yep.
It's not until he's going for the killing attack that Anakin stops him, you know? So I think there's some things that he could have done differently. I don't know. So. I don't know what would have happened differently exactly, but
I think I answered definitely, but I might amend that because Palpatine is just too good.
Palpatine is really good.
Palpatine is a master not just of planning, but of improv. You know, he'd be a great improv comedian. But I think he would be able to easily, if Anakin was there, do something. I think more likely it changes if Mace wasn't so hard-lined against Anakin from the very forefront. Yeah. If he had shared, like, hey, I actually am the best Jedi to deal with lingering feelings of the dark side that exists, and I can help you with it, young chosen one who is the savior of our entire galaxy. You know,
As
that
a-
might have been a little bit better.
As opposed to we make you a council member, but we
Yeah.
do not give you the rank
Yeah.
of master or whatever, right? Like
Man, that kid is uppity.
it's like always Mace is the like the antagonist of what Anakin's after, and I think that puts them already at odds for all kinds of stuff.
Agreed.
So, let's see. First, I was looking for anything Mace related.
Sure. What if Mace trained Anakin from Julian? But we kind of talked about that.
From Julian, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking over on the right where it says Hasheen, who said, "I love that it's gray. Yes, Mace is the strict Jedi, but also if Anakin had just listened to him, none of this would have happened."
Sure.
Which, you could go with that too. But also what we talked about with the way that some Jedi could turn away from something, right? Like he could have stayed there, left the Jedi Order, and been there with his love. Obi-Wan never got asked to leave the Jedi Order, really, so he never took that.
Yeah.
Anakin just went with it and kept both sides of it, you know? And like his fear of losing that love is what really led him into these points. He was, I need him alive because Padme's going to die, and he knows how to save lives or, create life with midichlorians because of dark ways, so I need that.
You know that line in Hook where it's like he's just a bad man that doesn't have a mommy? Like I think about that a lot where like Anakin had a mommy, but like because he had that love and attachment, and literally that was all he had because he was a slave, like he holds on so hard. And it's just strange that the Jedi didn't see that.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan like knows it happens.
Yeah.
But is so adherent to the dogma of the Jedi that he just kind of like, Anakin has to fight that battle by himself, which I've always just kind of thought like, why did you guys let him fight that battle by himself?
Well, this is also why they take kids so young, They take them before they've created that real attachment.
I guess you're right. Like if Mace had his way, none of this would have happened because Anakin never would have been trained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd been too old.
Sure.
Gareth says, when it comes to Mace Windu, do you think that he treated Anakin unfairly? There's always an argument on if Mace was just mean to him or if he acted right when he rejected Anakin's rank of master.
I wouldn't say he treated him unfairly because I think he treated him like he would any Jedi.
He was, I mean, I get the idea that he is upset that the politics of the Republic are pushing what Jedi belongs on the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the reason Anakin's going there is because Palpatine is pushing for that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's not about the Jedi choosing council members or anything.
Like, who do you think's idea it was to have Anakin spy on his friend Palpatine? I don't think it was Obi-Wan's.
It probably isn't Yoda's, right?
It probably isn't Yoda's. It's probably Mace's.
I'd say Mace and Mundi.
Mace and Mundi?
Yeah. Those are my top two picks for, like, who said, hey, he should go spy on him. I picked those two.
Yariel Poof.
Poof?
Probably
You think
him.
Poof did it?
Yeah, his long-necked bastard. I don't know.
Was Rancis still around?
I think no.
Rancis?
He's not around. I think he's only in episode 1, isn't he?
Is he only in 1?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he might be in. I think he's only in 1.
Doesn't feel Plo Koon-y. Like, I don't think Plo Koon would do that either.
Dude, he's too sweet.
Go
and spy on your best friend.
Ayla Secura? I don't know.
Yeah, Mace. I blame him.
I think Mace is probably the biggest culprit of that.
Yeah, that was kind of screwed. That's unfair.
Yeah, I don't know if he's treating him unfairly. I think it's unfair that you need to have the politics of the Republic separate from the Jedi Order, and things are just getting too in line.
Yeah.
And that I mean, that's ultimately their downfall.
Sure.
So Mace was right, but he's also too late.
All right, we got a lot of questions to get through and not much time, so we got to do it, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm going through trying to read. All right, well, let me just read whatever we see. Is there a prequel Jedi you love, a similar solo novel experience? You'd love one. So this is from Irish Nexus. So pick another prequel Jedi, and we get a solo novel of that Jedi. Rancis.
Rancis, yeah.
Is that how you say it?
I don't know. I always get it wrong.
I mean, I want to say Adi Gallia because I loved her Jedi Starfighter game. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Sure.
That was my first experience of really like, Adi Gallia, because I didn't know who she was whenever I watched episode 1, I think it was episode 1.
It's a good one. I would say, Plo Koon is really interesting. I don't think we know much about him. Kayani Mundik would be cool if they want to like recanonize some of the stuff that he gets up to on his homeworld.
What, you want to go to his homeworld?
I'd be interested.
Find out about his wives.
Yeah,
and
I want to see, man.
What genre is that book?
I don't know. It's the same genre of that one
Jedi Survivor Jedi
one, yeah.
Scars, Battle Scars.
Yeah, that genre. Yeah, was that Conehead though?
Yeah, right.
You know, I guess like my immediate thoughts are like maybe recanonizing older characters that aren't in the like I love the. Does anybody know the Dark Woman from the Old Republic comics? The Old Republic comics, not Old Republic. But the Dark Woman was a really cool character that, like, she had an apprentice named John Antilles, which is literally just he had a name and he's so, like, against attachment they give up their names.
So it's like John Doe, but
Yeah.
Antilles is like a common just last name? Okay.
So, yeah, I always thought those characters were really interesting, and I would like to see more of the, like she was kind of more of a mystic, and she had this really cool, like, fight. Like Vader kills her, but like then her like Force Ghost shows back up, and he's trying to kill the Force. It's really cool. So I would go for like something like that, like recanonize someone like the Dark Woman. Would be cool.
Dark Woman. Yeah, I don't know who that is or anything.
Yeah.
I would like Plo Koon stories. I think Plo Koon would be really cool to add more stories with.
You want like like a detailed finding of Ahsoka?
After the Tales of the Jedi, I wouldn't mind more Yaddle.
Yeah, Yaddle was really cool.
Like I don't know a lot about Yaddle.
Have Bryce Dallas Howard like narrate the book.
That'd be cool. Yeah, do that. I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into Owen Brown.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go through these in order from what it looks like we got them. So, as Skeleton Crew didn't perform great on Disney Plus, do you think the kids have a future in Star Wars, perhaps in Dave Filoni's movie?
Yeah, I do.
Man, I wish it performed better. I thought it was really good. I really like that show.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, like, how something did, or like, you know, how much viewership it had, how much money something made, like that's the last thing that I care about.
Sure, but I don't care about what you care about.
Yeah.
What I mean is like, I know Disney's going to care
Sure.
about it, which means that to get any more of that story is less likely, right? Because they're going to be like, oh, it didn't perform well, so let's find something else that will perform better, right? The reason we got more Star Wars movies was because that first Star Wars movie performed really well. You know what I mean? So, like, while I don't care about that either necessarily, I just want to have fun stories and I want to explore the galaxy and stuff. When it doesn't, it's the people up there where it's like, but where's the money? You know?
Sure.
The reason that we had prequel movies is because the first 3 movies did so well, you know?
They call it the bottom
The reason
line.
we got the holiday special was because those movies did so well.
That is true.
So, for better or for worse, like, we get
I
some good
understand.
and we get some bad, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see Skeleton Crew have some kind of continuation, even if they do like a different series and that story or that planet or whatever shows up again, or we see those kids aged in the whims of fighter pilot older in Rey's new movie that she's doing or whatever, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like something like that could be cool.
I
too.
would absolutely love that.
Just a continuation of the characters and the lore is all I care about.
Agreed. I mean, I think that story is more complete than something like The Acolyte.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would.
I don't
push
need
for-
more Skeleton Crew. I just kind of want more.
I would push for a season 2 of The Acolyte more than I would like a season 2 of Skeleton Crew.
Sure,
but
I agree.
if those kids show up, I will be quite happy. Yeah.
In their ship with Smee.
Yeah.
All right. And then Menaharan, who says, for Skeleton Crew, do you think the decision to expose Aten to the galaxy is right after seeing what happened at Akron?
At Akron. Okay.
Should they remake the barrier?
I mean, I think that I don't know. The New Republic's interesting in like Disney canon because like they don't feel like they're a necessarily return to the glory of the Empire or the Republic. They kind of feel like they're exactly what they are. They are, after a fascist state has been dismantled, you now have a lot of very worried people running the government, you know, and it's going to be scary and it's going to be you're not going to jump at the chance to like help the next person all the time because you're worried about what it looks like, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting, especially for like the times that we're living in. You know, Star Wars should always be commenting somehow on how things are, not how they were or
well,
could
like
be,
they also have covered like kind of a little past.
Yeah.
Maybe not even like present, but like a lot of original Star Wars was more about like what Vietnam
Which is that's when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get you. But
Sorry, I made you lose.
no, it's okay.
So I think that at doing that, it might not be great maybe for them, but I think the general, like the galaxy and what they know, it's going to, one, open those people up more to where they are more aware of what's going on. And if the New Republic pairs up with them, there's a lot of money there to help with the New Republic's growth. I was going to say,
I would feel like the New Republic would probably not quarantine them, but try to keep them isolated just to not devalue money.
The money?
You know? There's so much money there.
Sure.
That, like, you could literally crash your economy.
I guess so, yeah.
If you just start,
but
that's,
like,
that's the definition of inflation, right?
Is that material actually worth something, though? Or is it just because they made it into credits?
Gold,
you know what I mean?
Gold, baby.
Yeah, like if you just get a bunch of gold's good.
A bunch of gold's good.
But if you just have a bunch of like paper that have 100 on them,
yeah,
is that worth anything?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they would do.
So,
but I would like to see it in a book or a comic or season 2.
I like that they open up their world to knowing what's out there more so, and not being stuck in like. Essentially, they're like in a bunker. It's like Blast in the Past, right? Where they're living to, like, we don't really know what's out there. We just keep doing what we do, and that's what we do, you know?
I like to think that once all those people saw the stars, they wouldn't be able to forget about them.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, great.
I mean, the barrier would look cool, too, but, it's great.
Like, I would love to have, like, 10 years of the barrier, but I would miss the stars.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Matthew? What if Obi-Wan was allowed to learn Vapad with Windu's assistance, and also Sorasu to be the master of defense and potentially offense as well? What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, so when I've never been the biggest fan of the 7 forms of lightsaber combat. You know, Vapad I think is meant to be a version of Joyu, which is the 7th form that, like, Darth Maul uses Joyu. And Mace took Joyu and adapted it into Vapad. And so he can use the dark side. Obi-Wan is a master of defense, so he uses Sorasu. You know, like, I never really loved those things, but I do kind of like the idea of, like, what this does, which is, like, you know, kind of bring the role play aspect into it. It's like, hey, what if you min-max your Vapad into Sorasu and you create the ultimate spellcaster swordsman? You know,
sure.
In that regard, I think it's a fun way of, like, you know, building a character's loadout. But in terms of, like, utilization with choreography, all that stuff, I kind of don't think about that stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I don't really know those as far as, like, their fighting stances and stuff. I've never really, like, looked into what they were.
It's pretty much just like, is this person aggressive? Then it's Denjim So. Is this person, does he flip a lot? Then it's, you know, something else. It's kind of this loose, like, role play terminology, which I think is fun. I just don't take it super seriously.
Okay. We're almost out of time, but we can probably cover this one before we go, which is Marvel Week by Week, who says, what's happening with the comic videos? They were meant to be up before the Rising Storm back in 2024, and then every few months, and then supposed to be out during the holidays.
Yep. So we've recorded, we have 2 videos that are coming out soon. And then after that, we have another comic that we've already recorded. And then we have a couple other that are up on the table that we're going to be getting to. My plan was to have them out during the holiday break. The holiday break was very turbulent for many reasons, both for me and the person handling that edit. But I feel like we've gotten a handle on moving forward from here. And I know that me, you, and Calvin especially are, like, really excited to get back into those because you're able to kind of flex a muscle that you don't normally do, which is it's kind of like acting, but we're just doing a table read, you know, but it's also, we're discovering it for the first time and stuff. So it's a really fun way to react to something, but also be able to show off your love of a character and its voice, or find a new voice for a character. There's one coming up for a Hutt character that I can't wait for people to check out, that type of thing. So, literally the only thing that's stopping us right now is I have to film an ending and a beginning for the next 2 videos, and then we should be good from there on to pushed them out. But it's not Aaron's fault. It's not Calvin's fault. It's solely my fault that they're not out yet.
Okay. So there you go. There's your comic question answered. So
thank you, Marvel.
With that, we're at the end of our time. So we wanted to let you know when the next Gonk is going to be, which was going to be February 27th. And one of the things we will be talking in that is going to be a book.
It is. It is going to be the next installment of Thrawn Ascendancy, Greater Good.
Greater Good.
So we're going back with Timothy Zahn in the second book of the Ascendancy trilogy. We've already covered one trilogy.
We did one trilogy.
Of Thrawn.
We did the first of the this new trilogy.
The Ascendancy, yep.
So I'll be curious to see how the last two play out.
Me too.
But no, guys, thank you so much for joining us today, talking about some Star Wars with us. We will be back in February with that, as well as having a few more topics besides just the Thrawn, the Thrawn book. But if you guys have any other questions, anything like that, make sure you guys let us know. Comments on YouTube, over on Twitter, in the Discord.
What are your favorite Mace Windu moments that we didn't cover? Put those down in the comments. I'd like to check those out.
Let us know those. That'd be great.
But Gonk's like one of the few comic sections I feel comment sections that I feel safe to go into.
Sure, yeah.
When it comes to Blind Wave work, I usually stay away because you're always going to find spoilers. But I don't feel like that happens with Gonk.
So thank you very much for that, guys. We appreciate it and trying to protect us from spoilers. But we'll be back soon, February 27th. And in the meantime, may the Force be with you.
Always. Bye, everybody.